black right here.
Oh wow.
What I did was, where I work right now is for a company out the other end of town. And they're in the wood chip business. They're in the logging business. But they bring in all kinds of stuff from the community to grind. Well, we made some compost out there. I asked him to for this project. So underneath this chips, I put down this much compost that we made, and it's just grass. I know it's not organic like they said, but it's what came in between fine wood chips from the mill, all red fir, and grass clippings, and a little bit of leaves.
Wow.
And I put that underneath, so that's what this layer is.
You said that's 4 inches deep?
Oh, I'm deeper than that.
Or it was
mineral
when?
Soil. Mineral soil's there, so this is about 6 total. But that's over the years. So this black layer underneath, I basically sped up the process. That was my plan, putting the composty stuff in the bottom, and it's just wonderful. So that's what I've been doing in here. The size of wood chips are a little bigger than I think what's ideal on this piece of ground. I covered it with the stuff they brought in. The things that we made at the company I worked for were a little too big. I had some stuff in there this long and that big around, and I still am, it's a pain. But it's working. It's still working. This larger stuff, it's kind of hard to dig in from over the year.
Right.
I'll explain in a minute with the rototiller what I've done, but you can see it's very alive. This got recovered last summer. So you can see how quickly it's decomposing. This is just since last summer.
Oh wow.
So I'm pretty pleased with that. What I did differently, and I'll show you more over there. There's the mineral soil right there. So we're about that deep right here. But I'm pretty pleased with this stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it grows real good. This was a pile, and this is mineral soil graded. I don't know if you can see that. It's kind of dried out. Let me pull it back some. And this was just what was on the ground, so you can see we're just touching the mineral soil right here.
Oh yeah.
But still, what has rotted will go underneath. It's pretty nice. And you can grow in that. So you don't have to go to mineral soil to plant every time. You can see that this is 6 inches before I even get to the mineral soil. I just pull it back to right about where I see enough dark that I think it'll grow, and that's where I plant, and it does fine. So that's kind of what's here. The other thing of interest here is these leaves that are here and coming up voluntarily. They really do pull out just that easy.
Yeah.
And that's the demonstrator I like to see. And so they're in it. Like I said, till last summer this was a pile. That one there I should broke off. But even this grass that's wanting to grow. The fact that these plants want to grow in this stuff tells me it's really fertile. So I don't know how Paul keeps his garden so nice. I do have a weed problem that I kind of have to be on top of. But I have a fix for that over there, and I'll show it to you. So anyway, that's kind of what's going on here with this.
See, the way Paul keeps his garden so nice is he does that and then takes it to the chickens and feeds them with it.
Right.
So every day he has to feed the chickens, so every day he
takes, yeah, and I saw in that one video he was out in the orchard, had quite a bit of weeds out there.
Yeah, when you're
he didn't mind that.
Real bad. No.
Yeah, well he didn't mind that because that was going to his chickens.
Yeah.
Eventually I'm going to do that here. I'd really like to follow Jeff Lawton's idea and have some chicken tractors working on this the way he does them, because that's just, talk about speed the whole process up. I'm on fire about that. So how to do this and keep it under control, but I think it's going to be okay. Let me show you what I'm doing. Well, first off, let's look at the potatoes up here. These are my red Pontiacs for this year. And I'll take it down and show you. This top layer, you can see the strip here. This is an addition I brought from the backyard, from under a pine tree, where I stored a bunch of stuff for a year on a tarp, and it really rotted out nicely. So I covered with that. Let me take it down here. I hope I don't dig one up, 'cause I'm right next to one. But you can see this hasn't rotted real well right here. But down lower, we're going to get to where it is. Let's see if I can pull that.
Oh, yeah.
There's a potato right there. I don't really want to pull him clear up. But we're going to get down here to where it gets really nice. Right about here, it's getting real black. So the roots will go down that far pretty fast. See, there's even some chunks of wood still down there, but it's doing well, and I'm hoping my tubers will grow good in that. The mineral soil is about right there, I can feel it. So we're in almost that deep to mineral soil.
I think they'll do fine because Paul just puts it on top of the dirt and then covers the potatoes and everything with wood chips. So if you're doing in the dirt some, it's definitely
well, I'm not planting them in the dirt. I just went to where this layer gets dark.
Oh.
That's where I put them in. I pulled it back about right to there.
Right. That's pretty much right.
Because they can grow in that.
Yep.
That's beautiful. So I only went that deep, and that's why I put the cover on them. I didn't think they were quite covered enough with fine material, but you can see them coming up real nice here.
All throughout there.
So I'm pleased. I'm going to do, last year I did something that came from, what's the guy's name that does the I Am Organic? I don't even actually know his name.
I don't know if I know it either.
Yes I do. No, I don't. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He does a lot of leaf mold, you know, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So why did I bring his name up?
You're talking about something that he does.
Yeah, I know it, darn it. And I thought it was important enough to mention. Oh yeah, well, I did a little experiment out here. I found some potatoes under my sink. What I did was I planted them with peas. And I'm going to put peas in this too. But I have some onions that I may put in here as an experiment and let them grow together. Because the peas will bring nitrogen into the soil. And they'll be gone by the time the potatoes are ready to harvest.
Right.
But I guess what I want to share with your viewers is if you'll put down leaf mold or some other compost underneath this stuff as a starter, I think you'll jump start it, because that's what happened here.
Yep.
We put down that compost that my boss and I made about that deep, and then I put this on top of it. And I mean, just look at what that is. You really can't get much better than that, I don't think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As far as that black stuff goes, it's just really sweet. So I'm pretty happy with that. It sure grows weeds. But anyway, these are a couple volunteers. So I'm going to plant those onions. These down here are my Yukon Golds, but I planted them 2 weeks later, and they only had little starts on them. You know, this ears or eyes this big, but my other eyes were bigger, so these won't be up for a while. Can I show you what I'm doing with the rototiller?
Yeah.
You can see that I have weeds here. Now I pulled a few of these up by hand just a minute ago, but I do have some weeds, and this is hard to work in right now. You know, this has sat all year. It's pretty difficult to dig, to plant in, even though it's pretty nice underneath. Actually, I'm a little shallow right there. Look at that mineral soil right there. So I got to add some more to this area. But what I did do, I set my rototiller to only tilt this deep. And when I run over it, it just loosens it up really nice, and any weeds that are there come up. So I'm planning, I think, to do that almost every year. I'm going to try it, but this year I ran this area right here where you can see about a month ago.
Right.
And I'll just do this now if you want a demonstration of it. I thought I would get rid of this thing and never use it again, you know, but Amanda.
So now, why is it that you're doing that again?
Just to loosen the surface so it's easy to plant in and to work with. That's the only reason. Because this has packed so hard, It's difficult to rake it. It's hard to rake it around because remember I have some big pieces in here that I don't really want. So if people have a smaller chip, they may not need to do that. But I found over the winter this thing really settles down and locks itself together.
So the wood chips are hardened. So you're doing it so it breaks up the kind of like the compactness that you got from the wood chips to
the natural
now you
settling
can pull them back and get to the soil underneath.
Easily.
Got it.
I can just move it back to the growing medium, I guess is the term I'd like to use.
Right.
I'm not planting in the soil unless it's shallow like that one spot I told you. See, even here I've still got some chunks of wood that are kind of in my way, but as soon as I get to there, where it's black enough to want to grow in, then I can plant. But you can see from the weeds that'll grow in this stuff, I don't have to go very deep. So it's just easier. I'm going to experiment too on some row crops this year, like corn. And I have a 1-row cedar. But in that hard stuff, it's not going to do well. I'm thinking in this, it's going to run through there pretty nicely. And I can plant some beds. I don't plant in rows. I like to plant in beds because I want to grow a lot of food in a tight area. That's my thought. So I do it a little different than Paul does. He makes little rows. Rows are for machines. I like beds. You know, and about a 30-inch bed that you can straddle seems to be just about right.
Right.
So that's my thought on it. But yeah, this one didn't get tilled. It still comes out. But this stuff here that's down, if you don't pull it up though, like see, that's still kind of in there.
Right.
But boy, it makes it easy to take out. It's just pretty nice. So I'm going to try that on this piece of ground because, like I say, I've still got some kind of big stuff here. But I don't care. The price was right.
Yep. Free's a good price.
So anyway, that's what I'm doing with this piece of ground. We did do a little experiment with some corn here because we got that planter. We'd never used it before, you know. So my adopted son, basically, was in his early 20s. We planted some here and some took just with the row planter. And he made a real interesting comment after the corn was about that high. He lives with his wife now, but he came by and he said, "Wow, that looks just like the forest." It was such dark green corn. I've never seen it that dark. So, you know, usually corn's kind of pale.
Yeah.
Not what grows in this stuff. So, I'm curious. We're going to do corn again here, a little bigger amount, and see what's going on. So, that's what this piece is going to be. The plan is to expand.
That's very cool.
Want to see my leaf mold?
Let's go.
I got some leaf mold back here to show you, which is this little town right here will bring me all I want.
Really?
The trouble is they take it off the street, and so you get what they bring you.
Right.
It includes a fair amount of gravel. I've got some garbage in it. I've had plastic, straw, some stuff that you kind of don't really want in your leaf mold. But this leaf mold had some sand and clay even in it. So it's not really what I wanted. But I decided to plant in it anyway because these plants, I'm being told from a guy in England that I listened to, said they grow really good in leaf mold. These are the cauliflower, cabbage, and I've got some broccoli down there. This is better rotted than that. I didn't do anything with this when they dumped it. I just left it. So it went through 2 winters. I just brought the rototiller out here. Yeah, rototiller. These are little plants that I bought, except for the potatoes. These potatoes I put in, and they're just doing great right now. These onions I got to spread out. I'm going to put some of them out in here and see how they do. These are Walla Walla Sweets, by the way. But I'm really pleased with this leaf mold. I can show it to you. This had a lot of worms in it, and you can see that the worm castings have just broken it down completely.
Oh yeah.
And that's 2 years worth. So my thought is I want truckloads of this on my ground and put my wood on top of it. And I'll probably go a foot deep on the leaves or a little better.
Because
it goes
sink
so
down
fast.
pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah, it goes so fast. Now there's some mineral dirt that's there that they brought in. But it turns up real nicely. So even that's almost soil. It's not really good soil. It's got sand and some gravel in it. But the price was right. If I could get it from like a park or something, where they brought me always just from that park and not the street,
I
think I'd do better. But it looks pretty nice. Problem is there's a number of little trees that want to grow in this stuff. They come in, like right there's a tree. That's a tree right there. So I think I'll fight that for a little while. But that's my experiment with leaf mold. Just truly, let's see what it does. Of course you can see the Bermuda grass in my pile.
Yeah.
And some of that's pretty big. That one outfit brought me that one load there that's got So I don't know if I screen it or how I'm going to deal with it yet, except use it. When I made my own potting soil to start my starts, and I'll show you some of that, I used this leaf mold right here and a little bit from there. So I use this. This is pretty much my potting soil right here.
Yeah.
I don't do anything to it except take some of the big chunks out. I could have screened it on a 1/4 inch screen, but I didn't. Just big stuff I just pulled out by hand because I was in a hurry. But this end here is not nearly as rotted as that or as decomposed. But I still put these brock. Matter of fact, this one's stressed. It's actually put a little head on it. So
oh yeah.
it's just not doing real good down here, and you can see why. This is not nearly as broken down.
Oh no.
But they are down to the soil. The root is because they greened up all of a sudden. So I think their root has, because it's not very deep here. It's
right
there. See some of the leaves, there's the soil right there. So we're about 4 inches deep here. So, piece of asphalt. But that's what you get off the street. You get what they bring you. So if people don't want to deal with this in their garden, they need to get their leaves from somewhere else. But there's a lot of sources for leaves. So. Anyway, that's my little experiment for leaf mold.
And then here we have just piles of wood chips?
Just wood chips that I'm still moving into that other garden over there, and I got to get some more coming now. So this is a pile I made last year of fresh horse poop, of leaves that were in those piles that were pretty new, and grass clippings, and a little bit of this fine red fir bark from the bark operation. The finest stuff that's hard to sell.
Right.
So it has a little bit of this in it for carbon. It had leaves. It had horse poop and a little bit of grass clippings, and I only turned it one time, and it just grew red worms like you wouldn't believe. It just totally went worms. It became a worm pile, but I didn't do anything to it. I turned it one time and I watered it.
Wow.
Now there's some big roots in there. You can see some of the Bermuda grass came into
right.
it, but I also made a mistake and I planted a tomato plant right in the middle of it last year, just to see what it would do. But that put a lot of roots into it, so it's kind of hard to dig in right now because of the roots that are in there. The other mistake I made was I let the weeds around here get out of control, so they have seeded this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't do that. Keep it clear of weeds. What I did do this spring, and I'll show you a sample of it, I took leaf mold 2/3, this 1/3, and that's what I made my potting mix out of. So I have this mix, 1 shovel of this, 2 shovels of, or pitchforks of what I get out of there. This has a little bit of wood in it, but it's almost all worm castings.
Right.
And it was clear this full. So
wow.
I'm pretty pleased with this. I'm going to keep doing this. I have all the horse poop I can get. And I was impressed with the worms. It never did get hot. I thought it would get hot, but it never grew heat. So it was a fungus anaerobic worm farm just because they came.
Yeah.
I didn't make them come. But anyway, I'm basically pretty pleased with it. Like I said, I let roots get in it, and I think that's a mistake. As you can see, you have to chop it pretty hard. I hate to introduce all that stuff into my potting mix and put it all over the place. It is what is.
Well, you could try sifting it out.
Yeah, but you're not going to get these seeds and stuff out.
No.
You know, that's the problem, but they're going to die pretty easy. I'll show you my backyard, the other part of the garden. I didn't experiment the last 2 years. I put cabbage and cauliflower out there in the chip garden, and I put them in here at the same time. Starts, not seeds, starts that I bought. These take off and grow really fast this time of year. Those don't. However, later in the year, as it heats up, I do better out there, and I was like, why is that? But I figured it out. This is heating the roots. The dirt is absorbing the heat. Therefore, the roots are going to help grow.
Right.
The wood chips are insulating that ground out there, so the roots are staying cold. So I think for doing the early crops out there, if I can make a little hoop house or a polytunnel, as European guys like to call it, over them, that's going to help. And what I want to do is build portable ones and preheat some of the bark and the dirt ahead of time for a couple of weeks before I put my starts out there early. Because generally I plant March 15 here with those. Those went in about March 20. Just didn't get them here quite as soon. Occasionally I've lost them to frost, but pretty rarely. Even though at frost they won't die.
Yeah.
I've had my potatoes freeze off to the ground and still come back, so those crops can go early here. But I think to let them do really well, I need to have a polytunnel on top of my chips. But this is all going chips. Fortunately, my landlord sees the How the onions are going to grow, I don't know. That's why I'm going to experiment with them. Because Walla Walla Sweets here love that sandy soil, and they grow them in that. We're going to try. This would actually show pretty well. This place where you see the wheat, this is winter wheat. It's a soft white wheat that he had last year. I put it down as a cover crop, but this got its chips put down in July. I was tired of the weeds back here, and I had some teenagers that needed public service work, and they came out and worked for the old man, but they put my chips down for me. So this is what they are, and this is just with watering it a lot, and since last July. So it hasn't had a real long time to decompose. There's the mineral soil right there, but it's going pretty fast.
Yeah.
It really is going quite fast. I'm very pleased with it. This wheat grew great, especially now that it's warmed up. But I got to kill it now, or at least slow it down. But my plan for this year, for this piece, is we're going to grow our melons in here, because the old man wants a whole bunch of melons. So I'm going to plant them in here pretty quickly, and I'm just going to weed eat this down, I think, to kill it. But I'm not sure I'm going to do this for a cover crop in the future. Just don't know yet. Just don't quite know how to kill it, and I don't want to spray it.
Cover it with the tarp?
Well, I did it right here. That tarp sat here for 2 weeks. And it kind of did, so that might be how to kill this. This little spot right here had the tarp down before it got real warm, and you can see it kind of did kill it in the shape of the tarp. So.
Well, and with the heat too, that'll bake it out.
That may cook it out. Yeah, this is just a simple grass. It should kill pretty easy. So anyway, that's what's going on here. The rest of the garden is still conventional, but it's going to chips really fast. I would just mention that this part of the traditional garden back there has always grown better crops than anywhere on this piece of ground.
Really? Why?
Well, for a long time I wasn't sure why, but I think I know why now. From what I'm finding out about mycorrhizal fungi, they follow the roots out from those trees, and you see the stuff from Paul's gardening where he's got suckers coming up 30 feet away from those other trees. I think what's going on is the influence of the mycorrhizal fungi on this ground, I think, I'm not sure, has made it just naturally more fertile, because the corn will grow kind of not so nice over there, but this portion of the garden is just way better.
What are they doing across the way there?
Don't know. He drives around with the rod weeder and keeps it like that.
Oh really? So he doesn't grow anything there, fertilize it or anything?
No.
No. Thinking maybe it was runoff from being up. Coming down this way.
Sure doesn't.
Huh.
It sits there.
That's weird.
It's not from the septic system. It goes out the other side of the house. So all I can attribute that to is being near that tree. Yeah. Whether it's the shade that's keeping it from getting too hot, could be, or it's mycorrhizal fungi. So we'll see. I do want to show you something else of interest that's here. The reason that I built this, and I had these young guys help me build it, and don't look at my joints because I'm not a carpenter now that I mentioned it. They're not done very well. I would do this differently if I were doing it again. My landlord's 92 years old and is unable to garden but wants to. So I said, we're going to do a raised garden. But he can't even do a 2-foot raised garden.
Really?
It would not work for him because he's using a walker. But he can hang on to this. So I measured him in the counter to figure out how high to go, and we put this in. This piece of ground is odd shaped here, but I was trying to figure out where on the property to build this thing. I was just going to build a rectangle with a key slot in it. Right. That's all I was going to do, but my adopted son said, no, why not here? Because there was already irrigation to this. It wasn't being used for anything. It was like, okay, we'll do that. Well, needless to say, we put a hole through the main irrigation line because we don't know where it was as this place was built. So I had to bypass all that, and that actually turned out to be a godsend because I was just going to use the existing one that would come on every other day. Now I have a drip irrigation system that I put in here, and I've got a separate valve for it over there, so that turned out to be a blessing. But what I did to make this, inside, and I should have brought a piece of firewood, but I got some old punky firewood that's not good for firewood from the outfit I work for free. And in the bottom here, it's standing on end. So it's 18 inches tall. A whole bunch of firewood in there. These are lined. I put some tarp material like those over the wheat piles. I had access to that. So there won't be water against my wood. There won't be any moisture against the wood. I left a gap on purpose here so it can dry.
Right.
That's done. This is not treated with any chemicals. Only these are the treated wood. And the very bottom one is treated. But that won't, you'll never grow down there. So I put all the firewood in there. We even took slivers of wood and went in between them. Then we put dirt in and water settled that until that's as down as it could be.
Kind of like a little hugelkultur kind of a thing?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Hugelkultur?
Yeah. Oh, where they're putting the wood
where they put the wood and then put dirt on top so it soaks in the water?
My idea. My idea was to not have to put so much dirt in here. Oh. And I had the firewood
just filler.
Yeah, but the water settling fills in all the cracks and holes, and that's from knowing about excavating and settling. So we did that, and then I took a bunch of the manure stuff that I had, and this area of his garden was really bad. He'd been putting ash from his fireplace there for years, and it was hard as a rock and hardly grew anything. So I put that stuff on there this deep and rototilled it in down as deep as I could go, and then we shoveled that off, and that made the base soil for this. And then last year he didn't want any chips or anything on this, so we did conventional dirt, and it didn't do very well. A couple of reasons, I think. One is I think the dirt got hot. We had all that really hot summer. I had a lot of leaf curl. There's a lower spot we'll show you in a minute where he has. I put some tomato plants down there. Some of this is lower for the taller plants. Otherwise, he'd be garden. He's a short guy, only this tall. So this is in stages. I'll show you that. But I think the roots got hot and a lot of leaf curl. It was really hard to keep the heat off of this.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of drawback to this. But this year I talked him into leaf mold. And so that's what we have here, just leaf mold. He's going to garden in this. He does not want the wood chips here, but he wants the leaf mold. So I just dug out there and brought it in here and mixed some worm castings with it. That's what he's going to garden in. You can see there's things trying to come up right now.
Right.
But I think we'll be okay. These are some wall sweets I planted. Here's one that survived the winter.
Wow.
And you know, as cold as we were this year, this ground froze solid. It had to have.
Yeah.
There was this much snow on top.
Oh, yeah.
Several times there was this much snow on top of it. But in the fall, I was gone for a month, he wanted to plant. So the caregiver girls and he came out here and they planted a whole bunch of this broccoli, I think. No, this isn't broccoli. I think it's going to be cauliflower, actually. I'm pretty sure. But they planted it out here and, well, it froze off. But these survived. So even just being in the frozen ground with only snow cover on them, they survived. So we're just going to let them grow. But yeah, I'm going to fill the rest of this in with more leaf mold. He's going to garden in that this year. And if I can talk him into it, we'll put wood chips on top of it eventually. But I'm thinking it's going to go pretty well. So anyway, just of interest, you can garden in a whole bunch of different ways. I'm realizing it's not just one way or another.
Right.
There's a lady down here that grows in little things this big, you know, and grows some of this and some of that and have these squares on there. And at first I was kind of like, but then I got thinking, no, it's her garden. It's how she wants to garden. And it looks cool. And I've talked to her about it. There's a lot of ways to garden, but I think this is really effective. So we're going to see how she does.
Yeah, Paul's talked me out of raised beds and stuff, but I kind of dig this.
A lot of people do raised beds, though, commercially, and do okay with them.
Well, it's not that you can't do well with it. It's just that, like, you get sun on that whole side right there, just heating up. You know, you get the access to the cold, you get access to the wind, you get, you know, just those kind of things. So I'm like, why do extra work? But I kind of dig this little cove here that you have to walk in there, and that's kind of awesome.
This is done specifically because of his disability.
Yeah.
And you know, and I had a friend who really wanted me to do this commercially in the Tri-Cities. He works out by Hanford and makes all that kind of money, and he was jazzed. He said, you know, these people would pay for this because they don't necessarily want to dig in the dirt. They want to come out here and have their herb garden or whatever they want to do.
Do it around like a deck or something like that? That'd be awesome.
I'd go with white colored wood or something different because this absorbs the heat.
Right.
And I certainly wouldn't use this finish. This was a Thompson water seal finish. I screwed up. I didn't really understand, but the heat bakes the wax. It's paraffin based. And so the heat just dries it out. And after I did it, they told me, they said, nope, wrong stuff. That will do it. I should have just used diesel. Diesel and motor oil mixed together would have been better. Or just diesel fuel. Or shingle oil actually would have been nice too. I shouldn't have done anything different, but anyway, what's done is done. So
it's still pretty
interesting. Yeah, it's kind of a neat idea. The reason I would want a square one if I were doing it for myself is I can put a hoop house on it easier. And then you have a little greenhouse essentially early in the year. So I can see a lot of uses for it, especially if somebody wanted just to have a little poly tunnel on there.
Or even just to go from that side to that side, and then you could just walk into it. Oh.
Right. So for someone who doesn't want to stoop over and doesn't want tables to grow on in their greenhouse or something.
Oh, I totally get it.
Because the arch would start here and not have to go clear to the ground, so you'd be pretty square out. So I kind of like that idea too.
Well, and you think like most greenhouses have everything growing at that height, maybe a little bit higher, because they're walking in and doing the things. They have their tables and everything set up, and usually underneath is for like a storage of whatever.
Well, what I want to do here, and I haven't done it, is I want to build a pretty good sized portable greenhouse with just irrigation pipe and rebar in the ground, and I'll use dirt or probably wood chips to anchor it on either side, and I'll have a crank on one side so I can roll up the one side on hotter days to open it. And I want to put that in for my early stuff, and I want to start my tomatoes and everything early in there, but I'll do them in trays to transplant out. But what I want to do is have tomatoes growing in the ground in that thing, and when it starts to get hot, we're going to dismantle it. Take it down for the heat of the summer, and then 1st of September I'm going to put it back up again, resurrect it right where it was, put the cover back on it, and that'll extend my tomato season on in, and I won't have all the green tomatoes. They'll ripen probably into November, at least how it went last fall. We could have easily done that. In fact, I didn't have all the tomato vines off of here till then, and some of them I just drug into the garage and they continued to ripen. So I think if I were able to recover a tomato one, that's kind of what I want to do. That's in the works. But yeah, this is pretty neat. You know, we were just going to end it right here, the whole thing. I got thinking, man, why not utilize it?
Oh, yeah.
So these tomato plants would grow here because they're going to get this tall. And he wanted strawberries, so we put them there. But that thing settled so bad, I've got to dig them up and bring the soil up in that. But that's the idea. He got 2 different levels, something he can work with easily there, and then just stair step down. So. Anyway, of interest, this stuff here, some flowers that we started some new ones, and we leave. I'll walk around and let you shoot the stuff we've got going. These were little, I don't even know what they were, but they had little red flowers on them, tubular ones, and we had hummingbirds here all year, and we're pretty sure they were nesting in this pine tree because they'd come down from there and feed and go back in. So I have a bunch of those started. We're going to plant both sides of this. This clematis has not done well, so we'll take it out and we'll just let them march on that thing. Bring the hummingbirds, so I'm pretty happy with that. But it's okay, it's what it is.
What do you got going on here?
He had that, I didn't do that. He did that. That's actually an anaerobic, the 2 bigger bins there, he would just put food scraps in there.
Oh, for like composting?
Well, yeah, he would do one side until it got full, and then do the other side. It was an anaerobic composter, essentially.
It looked like it was some kind of oven or something.
Well, he has a burn on this end. There's even a hole on that side. This little one is technically an incinerator. We can burn any time out here if we want to. So.
Nice.
And we do. We burn some cardboard and weeds and things around. But he has a commercial burn or an agricultural burn permit that we use too. So that's pretty much it. Years ago when he was younger, he's lived here since 1950s. His kids told me there were fruit trees back here.
Oh, really?
They grew really well, yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen in the future with these trees, but it'll just depend on the future of this piece of property. But it's interesting, my neighbor has gone to chip gardening too.
Has he?
Yeah, he saw my idea and went over there, 1 wheelbarrow load at a time. I said, man, you can use my pickup. No, I'm all right. So he caught the idea. And that's really what I want to do with this piece of ground is I want it to be a demonstrator for the community. I want people to come out and see how to do this. And further down the road, I want to learn how to dry food. Because I think that's a good way to store food because it doesn't require much power. I mean, yeah, the vegetables and fruit are great out of the freezer, but man, you lose your power, you can lose your whole crop, you know.
Think of like a Excalibur or a solar dehydrator?
Both. Whatever's big in trays and can do it. We get enough heat here and enough wind, we could do outside really easy. Even if you wanted to protect it from the sun, you could still have a scoop into the air, into the prevailing wind with a weather vane on it so it would stay and vent out the bottom and just dry that stuff just like that in a day, I think, with no additional power.
Yeah.
Sitting it outside. So that's kind of my thought as to how to do some of that and teach people how to do it. Free them up on this food thing, you know. Let's start eating right. Let's get the community eating right and growing stuff. So of interest, there's a community garden that the Adventist Church is starting over by their school, by their high school across the street. They own a little piece of ground down there, and they're doing conventional gardening on it, but I want to introduce them to this.
Just tell them, hey, do this one little area right here.
That's right, exactly. We're going to do this one spot right here, and you see how it goes. And then I'd like to see them put a food forest on that piece of ground as a demonstrator for the community and to feed the community. That's the idea that they want to do, is people can come there and help and work and take produce home and just to help people out. Now the chicken idea I really want to do too. I'd like to see that a lot, because not only do they scratch and make the compost that Jeff talks about so much, and I love that idea, but they're making cheap food for people. Eggs are great protein. You can feed a lot of people with that. A lot of the old folks can eat it. There's 1,000 ways to use it for cooking, and you can eat the meat. Kill them little suckers, you know. And ducks would be the same thing.
Paddock shift through and run.
Lawton's used ducks on some of this stuff to fix stuff. Well, you can eat duck eggs and you can eat those ducks. So why not? I've not ventured into hydroponics, but I'd sure like to do some of that stuff too, where you have the
more
fish
work
and
than
stuff.
I liked.
And I know, but it can feed a lot of people.
It can.
The idea is there.
Oh yeah.
It's more than I know how to do or would know how. I don't know if I keep track of it.
You'd have to do it indoors here.
Yeah.
In something, at least a greenhouse or something, because it just gets so cold and the water would just freeze.
Well, that's the other thing. I want to really look at some of this greenhousing. People up in Edmonds, Canada, or Edmonton, Canada, greenhousing up there, they're not using almost any external power to run those things, because they're putting their heat underground, half in the ground. They're using insulated, hard.
Putting rocks in there, barrels for water.
Yeah, but they're not just using plastic. They're using a plastic, but it's I don't know the name of it, but it's thick and kind of semi-rigid, and it's got channels in it, and it can be bent or it can go straight, and they're doing all kinds of that neat stuff, and I want to do that stuff here too. I'd love to have one of those out there growing. You can grow year-round that way, so you can even have your fish in there if you want to. In fact, down in Arizona, they're digging out trenches into the dirt, piling the dirt up on this side, and just having their poly here. And the one family brings their goats and stuff in one end of it. So they get to come in out of the cold weather and have a place that's kind of warm. And they add some more heat to it too while they're in there. So it's just a neat way to do stuff. I want to learn all that.
There's a lot of different things out there to learn.
Well, I'm overwhelmed by it, so frankly. I even want alternative housing. I want a straw bale house.
Oh, really?
Or rammed earth, but around here rammed earth wouldn't be so good, but straw bale house, definitely.
You gotta find somewhere where they're gonna let you do that too, though.
There's already 3 of them in this county that pass code.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really neat, because they're cheap to live in. They don't cost a whole lot less to build, but they're really less expensive to live in over the life of the house. And they're quiet, and they breathe nice, and all that. So, yeah. So anyway, that's what I got going on here.
That's cool.
I don't know if that'll help somebody or not. I hope so.
Yeah.
But I'd like to come over and see your place and see what you're doing there too.
I think I'm gonna have
at some
a thing
point, have an
some
open
point.
house or something. That'd be great.
Yeah, I tried something before when we were moving, and a couple people stopped by. But I think once I get some of these wood chips spread out to where I want them, because we have our grass in the front yard.
Right.
And then that whole front out to the street is going to be garden, and then the whole strip down the tree line all the way down is going to be garden, because that all gets hit with the sprinklers, which right now I need to start breaking up the wood chips.
Yeah, right. So, I think watering them for a bit is going to really help you like it has me here.
Once I get those there, I might have people over for, you know, planting party or something, put some trees out and just throw some seeds around and just see what's going to happen, have some burgers and, you know.
Right, that'd be fun.
Yeah. And from this trip, did you get one of them gophers?
No, he's sitting out. Well, maybe he did. Either that or got a mouse. got something. I'm pretty sure that one is a Northern Harrier. That's what it looked like to me. The Northern Harriers, I don't know if you know those raptors. I do. They'll fly about 20 feet off the ground, kind of like this. They don't get much higher. When they turn, there'll be a white band on their tail. And that one looks slender like that. See if he turns and shows us what he does. I'm not sure, but he's got a mouse. See that?
Yeah, he's got something in there.
Yeah, that could be a goshawk. I have a real hard time identifying that for sure. I'll bet he goes to that pole. No, he's flying around in a circle. Anyway, I love it when they catch stuff.
Yeah.
I just, between you and me, I rent the upstairs of this house. I have since '93 after my divorce. But when I first moved in here, the desk was kind of inside that sliding door area there. I was in there working one day and just sitting there in my boxers and working on my stuff. And all of a sudden, donk on the window, you know, I go, that little brown bird. This thing there, you know how they do. And I wasn't at the door. This is the sliding glass door. I wasn't there 2 seconds, and an American kestrel, you know what they are? They're the little guys that sit above the ground and hover like that. They're beautiful. They're blue and brown, little hawk like that. But they're American kestrels, and it just came like right down on the ground. When it landed, it had one of its talons on the bird, which was unconscious. Bam! Pecked that thing quick, took off, and flew over to a power pole over there.
Really?
Ate it. I'm guessing it was chasing it, and that little bird went. You know, I'm gonna duck in here and. Didn't work. That was cool because that little hawk there wasn't afraid of me.
Yeah. So one time I was out fishing with my buddy, and I'm standing out there on the boat and throwing my stick in the water and just dum-da-dum, and I hear what sounds like a kite on a really, really windy day, and you know when it's like just you hear it flapping, and I'm like. And I look over and this eagle's like, boom, grabs this fish like 2 feet away from me and takes off. And the wingspan was just enormous. I mean, that. And I was just, that was my fish. Give that back.
I'm presuming it's the bald eagle then if you're in the water.
Oh yeah, it just came and just.
How cool.
And you just hear this thunder roar just as it's coming in, and then just grabbed that thing and took off. And I was
nice.
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, I can't catch nothing, and this guy just swoops in and grabs 1 or 2 feet away from me. Yeah, I'm done.
There's another one of those back, or else he ate it already. He's sitting there on the wind.
I know. That's what I like to watch him do.
I'm thinking that is a Northern Harrier, because you can see him really nice right now. When he turns, he should have a band on his tail. That's what I think it is. Come on, man, show us your tail. He might come right in this tree. Anyway, there's a lot of hawks around here. But yeah, it's so cool. One time I was driving, my background is driving trucks. I was coming down from Umatilla this direction, and out, you know where the pumping stations are along 730 there along the river?
No.
If you're coming from Umatilla to here along the Columbia River, there's 2 big pumping stations, and the road's right along the river. And I looked out in the water, and there was this commotion in the water, you know, and I could see 2-3 miles ahead of me in the water, because it was just glassy smooth except that spot. Man, there must be a bunch of fish out there or something, you know. As I got closer and closer, finally I got out close enough to where I could see there was a young bald eagle, still immature, swooping down, and there were a bunch of those little coots, those little black ducks out in the water. Oh. Well, when the hawk would come or the eagle would come, they'd all dive. They know not to take off, but they dive, and then when he'd go by, they'd pop back up again. This eagle's just swooping around up there and flying on them. Yeah, but then not a quarter mile past that, there's a dead snag, and there's a mature bald eagle just sitting in that snag watching. And I just thought to myself, that mature eagle's probably standing there. Go ahead, youngster, catch one of those. And when you do, I'll steal it from you. Right. You know, he's not working.
You have to learn somehow.
Yeah, he's gonna let that youngster out there just try fishing them things and catch them. I don't know if you ever got them, but that's what was going on. That bald eagle was swooping in trying to get those ducks. Now my oldest boy, when he was a kid in 3rd grade, we were homeschooling, he did a project on eagles. Now the bald eagles, well, if they want a duck, they'll swoop from above so these other ducks can't see them, and they'll go inverted and grab their belly with their talons, and they'll fall to the water with them because they can't fly with them. They're too big, and when they get in the water, then they will swim to shore. And I've seen video of that, not the catching, but the swimming to shore.
Really?
The duck, yeah. They're in the water, but they're using their wings and oars, and they'll drag that sucker to shore. It's like,
wow.
How cool is that? So yeah, a lot of neat stuff out there. Well, there's something on that power pole over there.
It's
that hawk?
Yeah.
Probably eating a mouse. But yeah, cool stuff.
Oh, there's another one over
There's
there.
another